You have tuned in to Authors Up here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. Your hosts are authors Ruth Griffin, Andrea L. Hines, and yours truly, Victoria Henderson Poole. We love what we do, and we know it is every author's desire to get their work to a greater audience. Authors Up is a forum for authors by authors, those who are already published and those who want to be, along with other writers and playwrights. Here, we provide an opportunity for their work to be showcased as we share our own, gain tips and tools, information, and insight to not only enhance the writing process, but be able to just enjoy the journey. Those who are willing to put pen to paper will usually have a story they are willing to tell, and they are invited to tell it right here. And if you are not a writer yet, no worries. We want you to be a part of our listening audience. So take notes if you like, send in your questions, or just feel free to comment on the candid conversation, because it's time for Authors Up.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Authors Up. We are here this evening. We have a wonderful guest this evening. We're excited this evening. We have great things planned for today, and we are so glad that you decided to join us. We always tell you, we recognize you could be doing anything on this Sunday evening, but we are glad that you decided to spend some time with us. And I am here with not only our guest for the evening, but our co-host for the evening. Ruth is here and Victoria is here, and I'm going to let them give you their own welcome, and we're going to talk about the week in review. So, Ruth, why don't we start with you tonight?
Okay, well, welcome everybody. We are glad to have you. Obviously, we wouldn't have a show without you. So, welcome.
And Victoria, you want to give your welcome? And
as always, it's a pleasure.
After she does, Ruth, we're going to
review
back to you and give your week in review. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, as always, it is a pleasure to be here with you listeners. So thank you for joining us. And as always, my bronze girls, it is always nice to be here with you. It is my favorite time of the week to be able to sit and talk with you and talk with our authors. I just love it. And I hope you listeners know that I love it. And I know my co-hosts do as well. So thank you for being here.
Thanks. Well, I guess it's I've been nominated to start with our week in review.
Okay.
And honestly, I've been thinking about it, and I've come to that lull in the week where I'm just like, do I even remember what I did last week? So,
you're a working girl.
Yes. Now that I've got a real job, I'm at that point where I'm just like, okay, where did the week go? If I'm saying I'm busy, I've had a busy week, and it's only like Tuesday, then it's been a week. So no, it's been a good week. I've made it through, so no complaints. Don't choose to complain, but I'm good. It was a good week. I made it through, and that's what counts. So
all right.
Victoria, how was your week?
Well, my week was just consumed with ending the fiscal year at work. And so, oh my goodness, it's amazing that, you try all year to make sure I work in budgeting, so in the purchasing, so you try all year to make sure you're paying everything. But then when you get down to the end of the year, it's amazing how much was really not done. So the scramble was in to get everything in. Then we discovered some things were not done. And so, all I look at it as a chance to figure out lessons learned. So that's why I'm look forward to teaching the other admins let's just get together and let's talk about what didn't go so well, what did go well, and how we can make it better going forward. So I'm glad the year's over, and I'm looking forward to the new start of the fiscal year. So, and then I think I'm going to apply that to my own life. It's time to close off some things and get rid of some things, and then move forward with some new things. So that's my week in review.
Mm-hmm. All right. You have something else, lady.
Me?
But congratulations are in order for you, Miss Victoria.
Yeah,
what are you telling us? Didn't you get recognition?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I absolutely forgot. I'm going, what are you talking about? What? Who recognized me? I did. And you know what? It took me a couple of days to really let it sink in before I even said anything. But someone nominated me for it's called the ACHI Women Supporting Women Association. I was nominated for their award because they spotlight the accomplishments of successful women. And someone nominated me, and I was just humbled and grateful for that. So the award ceremony is going to be in October, and even if I don't win, it's just nice to be among all the other nominees and recognizing the things that we have done and the things that we've inspired others to do. So that I did forget about that. Thank y'all for reminding me.
Yes, ma'am. That is the ACHI. They call it ACHI. The
ACHI. Okay. See, I didn't even know.
Yeah, ACHI Awards, and it is, you are among very good company, Victoria.
Oh.
They have I've been to their award ceremonies before, and the categories and things that they recognize women for is just amazing. So congratulations to you. And as you go forward, and they're going to be some things that they're going to celebrate you for, and you're going to be a part of in this process getting to October. So congratulations to you, lady.
Thank you for informing me, because I really didn't know. Here I call it the ACHI ACHI Award. Okay.
It's the ACHI Award. So I am very, very happy for you, and we're going to be talking about it with you.
Okay.
Because it's going to be a great journey for you. It's going to be a great journey for you. Yep. So
all right. Well,
look forward to it. Look forward to it.
I do. All right. Well, how about you? So we can get to our author.
Well, my week was short and sweet. I did got some writing done. Still have some more to do. Got to get my newsletter out and things like that. I had a chance to spend a little time with my grandson, bless his little heart. And I don't know whether I've ever mentioned it on the show or not, but he has been in date braces on his little leg for almost a year. And he has braces that he has to wear at night, I think, for another year. But his braces came off, and you couldn't tell this little fella that he wasn't running a marathon. He took off. He's just been running everywhere. So it was just good to see him out of those braces, and good to see a smile on his little face. So that was actually my highlight of the week.
Yes, that's pure joy right there.
Yeah, I so enjoyed that. And now we are going to move into what this show is all about, and that is authors and the wonderful, wonderful books that they write. And we have a guest on tonight who has written a fiction book. The title of it is The Paris Photo, and her name is Jane Gabin. So I don't know whether this is the point where we do it, but we're just going to give some hearts, put some hearts there, and kind of clap our hands a little bit and welcome Jane.
Thank you.
Welcome Jane for tonight. Now, Jane is a native of New York City. She earned her BA at Queens College of the City University of New York and her MA and PhD in English at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She is an experienced teacher, an educational counselor, working in secondary schools, universities, and lifelong learning.
Most recently, Jane has taught about World War II at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Duke University. She has participated in numerous academic conferences and lectured extensively in the United States and abroad. Jane is a member of the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, NACAC, the Southern Association for College Admissions Counseling, which is the SACAC, and the Victorian Society of New York, the Association for Jewish Studies, and the Alliance franchise branches in New York and Raleigh.
The author of 3 academic books published by university presses, Jane began writing the Paris photo after finding unexplained pictures among her late father's papers. She has visited Paris many times in the years since, and even though we already did it, let's send some hearts up and welcome Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Oh, this was such a voyage of discovery for me. First, I've never written any fiction, and I've always wanted to write, but I never felt I was, good enough. You ever have the feeling? Although I've been, from teaching, I could distinguish good writing from not good writing. And I thought, well, I could do better.
Yes.
And I sometimes pick up things, the grocery store or at the bookstores, and I look at them, and I thought, I can write better than this, but they got published. Or I can pick up a book and I go, oh, I never thought of crafting a sentence that way. That's genius. I couldn't have thought of it. So basically, I just write what I see,
Right.
but I insist on things being nicely written. So, there are strong words and there are weak words and that sort of thing. But this story, like I said, landed in my lap. I'm an only child, so when my father passed away, I got everything. And it's funny, my mom had a set of 5 little plates that were framed and hanging on the wall, and I always liked one of them. And I remember years ago saying to her, would you consider breaking up a set? There's one there that I would like. She says, wait, you'll get it all. And she's been gone, over 10 years, and my father over 20. Anyway, when my father passed away, I brought my mother up here, and then I had to go through their place, their apartment, and clear it all. It was very hard. It took me a long time. And my father shared with me most of his photos, and I had seen a bunch of them, but there was this one with a family, and I hadn't seen it, and I was wondering. And my father had this. I always describe him in the present tense. Anyway, it's a family disease, I think. He didn't put down the people behind on the backs of the pictures. Names. I even have photographs from Russia.
Right.
Oh,
I don't know
goodness.
who the people are, but I don't know who they are. They were important. My grandparents kept these pictures for years and years. So my father did write something. He wrote the 4 last names of the different people in the picture. He was a soldier, and he has these last names. So I figured out which was which, and then what was I going to do? There was a picture of him with 3 women, grown women. 2 of them looked about the same age. One was a little older, and a boy, maybe 12 years old.
Wow.
So I figured, okay, who were these people? They must have been important to my father for him to have a photograph.
Right.
And of course, there was nobody left to ask. There was nobody I could ask. Who are these people? So I was very lucky. I really feel that I was accompanied on this search.
Wow. Well,
that year, it happened to be that the French telephone book. Remember telephone books?
Oh, yes. Very vaguely.
Yeah. It was online, but this was not a French name. It was an Eastern European name. It was Polish or Russian. I couldn't figure it out. But there were a lot of people with that name.
Right.
So I wrote a letter. I didn't speak any French. Now I do, but I didn't at that time. So I just wrote a letter. I went, happened to be teaching at an international school, and I went to the French department, and I said, will somebody write a letter to that can be in French, a simple letter. I'll dictate it. So I had 20, 25, 40 copies of the picture and same number of the in the letters. And I said, I'm the daughter of this American soldier, and this boy has the same last name as you do, and I would like to know if anyone recognizes the picture. I didn't say what my father's name was, his first name, or his rank. And I mailed all these. Well, most people don't answer because you get a letter from a complete stranger, you don't know anybody, you throw it out. So, but several people did answer. I took this to my grandmother, and she doesn't recognize anybody. Or I took this to a family reunion, nobody recognized anybody.
Wow.
And then one night, maybe a week later, at a weird hour, I get a telephone call. And I thought it was a crank call. It was a man crying. It was somebody crying, making strange noises. And then he said, "C'est moi. C'est moi, le petit garçon. It is me. I'm the little boy."
Oh.
He said, "I see the picture and I say, Sergeant Al." And Al was my father's first name.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So you see why I thought God was with me.
Yes.
Because it just so happened that the phone book was online, and this man was there. And he got the letter, and he was alive, and he remembered my father.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Oh, my God.
That is amazing.
So, yeah. So
God.
we spoke a little bit to each other, but I didn't speak any French, and he hardly spoke English.
Right.
So I quickly took a course with Rosetta Stone, and then I joined the Alliance Française, and I took a course with them, and I, rapidly, so I could try to get some feel for the language. Meanwhile, I wrote to Georges, and I found out, questions that I had about my father, and he would say, "I don't want to talk about the past.
Oh, my goodness.
It is over." And then he would proceed for the next 2 or 3 hours to talk about the past.
Oh, my goodness.
I had to remember everything, and when I got back to my hotel, write it all down. Well, I visited Paris. I was never a Francophile, but since I connected with him, I wasn't able to save any money. Whatever I made from teaching, I was living in New York at the time, and whatever I made, every year I would go to Paris. I worked all summer, and I went every summer to see him. And I thought to myself, this can be a story. This is a story. But
absolutely.
Then I thought to myself, so he helped some civilians as a soldier. Right. He helped them. He would, and the truth was, he would go to the PX, and he would get whatever he was entitled to, soup, coffee, flour, whatever, and he would just give it away. He would give it away, and
oh my,
the people were still under. They had been robbed by the Germans, and they were all
Right.
they were on. They had rations. They had the people lost a lot of weight, and he would just give things away. But I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm sure a lot of American soldiers were nice to some civilians, but there's more to this. And there was something unexplained. Why had I never heard of these people?
Right.
Why had he told me about them, about being in France and all the stories, but he never told me this? And there were other pictures that he mailed to his sister, who wasn't at the time speaking to my mother. So
oh boy.
there was a secret in there, and I tried to figure it out. But I thought,
Jane, let me ask you. Can I ask you real quick? When did you decide that that this was a book? You said you hadn't written before, but at what point did you decide I'm going to write this down and make this a book, turn this into a novel?
Right.
Probably about a year before I sat down to write it.
Oh,
so
wow.
probably 2014 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought more people would read the story, because when I heard his story, it just gave me chills. And when I read about how the Nazis, what they did, this was part of Hitler's fanatic desire to rid the world of all Jewish people.
Wow.
And there was a point, and I started to read about, and I knew what happened in Poland and Russia and in Germany,
Right.
but I didn't know thoroughly what happened in France. I read everything I could. I went into the archives in Paris. I went to, there was a special Holocaust museum and library, and I read everything, and it just gave me chills. At one point, there were two German generals at a train station, and it was near the end of the war. They could probably hear the gunfire from Allied troops coming close to the city to liberate it. And one general said, "Look, I need this train that's about to leave. I need to get wounded German soldiers back to Berlin so they can be treated and live." And the other general said, "No, I need this train because I have 1,600 people I want to get to Auschwitz."
Wow. Oh, my.
He won. It was more important to the Germans to kill people than to take care of their own war wounded.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
That says a lot.
And
Jane, how long did it take you to write the book?
a year.
It took you a year.
And something else happened during that time. The election of Trump. And I started to see I didn't have to see them. They were there. Such strong parallels between what was going on with Trump and with what Hitler said, and the lies and the subterfuge, and starting with you remember, we just want a registry of all the citizens all people here who are not citizens. It didn't sound. It sounded innocuous, but it wasn't innocuous. And that's exactly the way the Germans started in Paris.
Wow.
A little bit here, chipping. And it was I just get so emotional when I think about it. And of course, it wasn't just Jews who ended up in the death camps, but there was no protest. There was no protest. Even Jewish residents of Paris, who thought, they're asking for foreign Jews. They're only going to go after foreigners and deport them. That's all.
Right.
That's where they started. And bit by bit they got, because there was no sort of neighborhood to go to, and people didn't live in certain area. This is the Jewish quarter, and this is the the Catholic area, and this is the Protestant area. They're all over the place. So the first was, well, it was just insidious, and that's what I wanted people to see, the insidiousness of how this could happen in a country that had, liberté, égalité, fraternité as its motto. It was very, very frightening.
Yeah, to definitely hear the impact that it had upon you, just by listening to you speak. I mean, oh my goodness. Wow.
And Georges, who was past 80, Georges stayed alive, I think, until last fall. Last fall, he did pass away. So for a number of years, for 8 years, we had a nice friendship. And
that's beautiful.
And what he told me, he says, after your father left Paris, we never saw him again. Of course, we never heard from him again. And I thought, that's weird. My father didn't have, I had just this one picture, but apparently there was a relationship. Georges said he was at our house all the time.
Oh my goodness!
Really?
And it's just amazing. From one picture that you discovered all that, had such a nice friendship, and just got all this information that you're now sharing with us. It's just amazing.
Well, why do you think he kept it a secret? Right. Why do you think he kept it a secret?
Well, I think either he had a relationship with Georges' mother. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. Because she really didn't know she was a widow. They did not know about the concentration. They did not know. He was deported, and then they didn't hear from him. So they were waiting for him to come home. But even the fact of his having a close friendship with another woman would have made my mother very uncomfortable.
Understanding. Okay.
So that's and also my father did not rock the boat. He made a little bit. He did what he felt was right in the war.
Right.
Oh, by the way, he was not in a fighting unit. I neglected to say that. So he wasn't in a combat unit. He was, because he had flat feet. He was in the postal he was in the postal service. Well, he was, trained in combat, but he was in a postal unit. And they delivered the mail to and from the soldiers and parcels and so forth, and they censored everything. But it made me feel very good, that he had never hurt anybody.
Right.
So he did things. His morals were never called into play. But
that's beautiful.
He at home he didn't rock the boat. He didn't rock the boat, and he had a very controlling and domineering mother, as you may, those of you who have read the book, may have gotten the picture. So I think that was the crux of what was going on. But I thought, well, I can't just meet this. Oh, that's very nice. Well, nice to have met you. Goodbye. And I felt that I was supposed to continue the friendship. Continue the relationship that my father had. This man has had not a nice life. Not a nice life.
Right. You can imagine that. Well, Jane, how different was real life from your book?
Not going to tell you.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay. Well, in the second part of the book, the soldier's daughter, who's a grown woman, goes back to Paris, and she hears, the story. But she's like a tenured professor of English, which I'm not. I never never had an academic position, and I have had a family, so she can find out things and she can do things, and it's actually left sort of ambiguous. Maybe she'll say that, but she does get his point of view, and she does strive to get his memory of what it was like as a child.
Yes.
To have his father suddenly disappear, and his grandfather, and some neighbors, but his mother was very, very smart, and something told her to get out, and they were again lucky, because in order to survive in occupied Paris, you needed papers, because if you were Jewish, they had a big red J for Judah, all across your passport, and everybody had to have had an ID card. And you needed it whenever you bought tickets or rented an apartment, or it had to be shown on demand. So you had to have fake papers, or and it had somebody on the outside, which he had, the person who provided these papers, and a marketable skill. They don't care if you were an expert in, let's say, Shakespeare, or or you were very good in in mathematics. They wanted they were hoping to. You could survive if you had a skill. She was a really expert seamstress, and so she worked in a factory run by by the Nazis, and she made uniforms. And so I got these stories from him about what it was like, and I just can't imagine he said his main memory of childhood was fear.
Oh my.
He says it wasn't a specific fear, but it was just when they say be afraid, be very afraid.
Very afraid.
He says I just went around afraid because you didn't know whom to trust. And his mother made many sacrifices to place him in locations to hold him where he would be safe. But, so of course
I'm trying to imagine how he felt finally understanding and knowing what happened to your father. That was a question that was answered for him before he passed, and the impact that must have had on him. Oh, I just can imagine the conversations you guys had together once you understood what he was saying, and he understood the Jew, and to know that his friend, his somebody that he cared for, how he made out in life, and to meet the daughter of his friend. I'm sure you made him very, very happy before he passed.
I hope so.
Oh my gosh, I believe you did, and I'm glad to know that you had that experience. I have one question for you though.
Sure.
I've never been to Paris. What is it like in Paris in summer?
Hot. Very, very hot. And it's everybody says, oh, the French are so unfriendly, and they insist that everybody speak French. So they do have a number of customs, like when you shouldn't go into a shop and say, do you have any cheese here? You should say, oh, good morning. How are you today? Blah, 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 blah. You chat a little bit. And then you say, and by the way, do you have any cheese? You just
Really?
do that. Yeah. So one time, George and I got into a taxi, and he tells the taxi driver, "Rouvre bien," and the taxi driver says, "Bonjour, monsieur," and he says, "Oui, oui." He says, "Bonjour, monsieur." Oh, and so
Yeah. Say good morning.
Well, before I went over the first time, I learned how to say, "Désolé, mais je ne peux pas parler français bien," which means, "I'm sorry, but I don't know how to speak French well."
Okay.
And
Okay.
when
That's a
I
good
could
one.
say that was a good one, and I said it correctly, and I said it with the right, that I spoke French decently for an American.
Okay.
Right. I didn't have it. So then, but I found that people were nice. People were friendly. If you just try,
Right.
And I didn't expect things to be like they were in America.
Right.
If I wanted that, I would just stay home. So
right.
Somebody would say, what do you think? I was always happy when I was there.
Oh, absolutely.
And George took me to the local markets, and
oh my goodness,
it was very nice. Yeah, it was nice.
When's the last time you went? When the last time were you there?
2 years ago, 2009.
3 years ago. Okay. Right, but before COVID hit and everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Jane. Hey, Jane. Did you ever get a chance to share your book with George?
I had a problem there. First of all, it's in English, and he doesn't read English. But also, he's very upset. He's very upset to hear about the war.
Right.
But his children read English. So they know, and I told him, I said, I have written a novel. It's sort of like your story about my father, but not. I made it into a novel, but I didn't want to totally go behind his back. But if he understood it, he might have thought that I had a crush on him or something. I don't know. But also I bought him a French version of it's a I don't know if the novelist is British, but it's called All the Light We Cannot See, and it's about a blind French girl and a young German boy, and they grow up, and they actually are in the same room at the same time, in a suburb of in a small town in France in the war. So it's not about Paris, and there's actually you don't see much destruction in the book, and it's a very sweet story. Right. And I thought he got so angry. He says, "This is about the war. I don't want to hear about the war."
Oh, wow.
So I just apologized. There are people who have gone through war experiences who do one of two things. One, they talk about it all the time. It obsesses them, and the other ones, it's part of the past. And they forget it, and it never occurred. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I liked the international flavor of Paris. I mean, you see people from all over the world, and they all speak French, and I just liked it very much.
Wow.
And although there is a lot of racism directed against the Muslim population.
Mm.
And they mostly live in what's called in the banlieue, the neighborhoods in the high rises away from downtown. And there are a lot of problems there,
right.
beneath the tourist aspects of Paris. There are the real life problems.
Right.
I got to see those too.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. What a life. What a life.
One day I was on the metro, which is it's a subway, and sometimes it's elevated and mostly it's underground.
Right.
And there was a man harassing two girls. Maybe they were older teenagers or, maybe college age, but he was drunk. I could tell from his weaving steps and from his voice. He was a white guy. They were white, but nobody did anything. There were people sitting near him. Nobody did anything. Nobody tried to stop him. Nobody. And I thought to myself, it's just the same. It hasn't changed in all these years. And I felt like saying to those, I got up, I walked halfway down the car to confront the man. And I said, as best as I could, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Go away. Don't stop bothering them. And I felt like saying to the other people, this is why the Nazis marched into your city, meeting no resistance.
Right.
Wow.
The point of my book, I wanted people to, if you see anything wrong, you see something going on, you have to speak up right away. You can't let it go.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Jane, can we ask you, we're about to run out of time. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're okay. But we're about to run out of time, but I wanted to be able to ask you to tell our listeners where they can get your book, because, as we could all hear, there's so much that we weren't able to touch on. And it's just a rich, full book, and the story. It's just a story I think that everybody needs to read and hear. So please tell our listeners where they can get the book and how they can get in contact with you.
Okay, the book is available on Amazon, and you can just order it. If they can get in touch with me, the easiest way is, I guess, the email. It's just Jane S. Gaben, one thing, no punctuation, at Yahoo.
Right.
And the book is available, and you can get it on a Kindle too for less money, and you can read it, read the electronic version, but without the pictures,
gotcha.
which are always on the cover. No.
Jane, I tell you, this has been.
Thank you.
This has been so delightful tonight. We usually have, questions, and we go back and forth and all, but it has been, I've just been sitting here mesmerized to just listening to you, really, because we don't often have the opportunity to have the author really tell the story.
Yes.
And that has just been, oh my gosh, it's just been amazing. It's just been amazing. I'm so happy that you were able to join us tonight.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh, and to share the Paris photo. I just had this picture in my mind because when I go through, and I've had the opportunity to go through old albums and things in my family, one of the things that really gets me is that you turn over the picture, like you were saying, and there's nothing there. And when you lose matriarchs and patriarchs in the family, and you've got all of these things, and you say to yourself, what is the story behind this? Who are these people?
I thought it was just my family. Maybe we're related.
No, You know, who were they? Who were they to me? You know, why should I know these people? Should I not know these people? So to be able to listen to you tonight and see how all of this came together for you through one, through
picture.
the Paris photo. That is just wow. That's really something, and I am just so happy that
you just look at those pictures of the matriarchs and patriarchs. There's a story in every single picture.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But it is a message to me. I think about it every now and then, but it is a message to me while there are still older members in my family to get those photos out again and to see, if any of that can be identified. So I just thank you. I thank you for that, and thank you for putting that, making me remember how important that is and how important some of these stories are. So, we always say, get the book. This is no different tonight. Get the book.
Right. Get the book.
Story.
Get the book.
It is a beautiful story to be told. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you so much. Ruth, do you have any closing comments before we go tonight?
Well, just like you, Jane, thank you for joining us. Honestly, I was sitting there earlier just thinking how delightful it is listening to you, and I think you gave off that vibe to everybody. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And of course.
Well, listeners, you know exactly what to do. We end our programs the way we start our programs. So send up some hearts to let Jane know how much we appreciate her being with us tonight. And just, let her know that she can come back anytime.
Yes.
Anytime. Love to have her.
Thank you to the River Church. This means a lot to me.
Oh. Well, we are very, very glad that we could have the chance to enjoy your book and your just hearing you tell the story. It was wonderful. It was wonderful evening. Wonderful evening. Yeah. So, listeners, you know that we are here every Sunday night at 7 p.m. We thank you so much for joining us. We thank you for being a part of Authors Up and what we're doing here, what we're trying to do here, provide a forum for authors, by authors. We have some surprises coming up for you. I tell you what, no, I'm not going to tell you what. Tune in and see what's going on. But like I said, we will be right back here next Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Until then, this is Andrea Hines with Victoria Henderson Poole and Ruth Griffin. And there's never a dull moment here at
Authors Up.